And we are live in a living color from Scimitar Studios in Denville, New Jersey. You're listening live the Open Mic program right here on Blog Talk Radio. Welcome aboard, everybody, into the Sports Talk Nation as we have a great show on tap for you tonight as we continue our month-long tour of Major League Baseball, jumping from team to team throughout the course of this month, as we're just days for that matter, less than 10 days away from the start of the Major League Baseball season. Today we're going to talk about a team in the American League West that is expected to make some big moves this year in this division. 2 years ago, this team made the playoffs and was really, really close to pulling out a series against the Kansas City Royals in the division series that year. Last year, they had a bit of a disappointing season, and they're looking to get back to the playoffs this year, and that is the Houston Astros. So we're going to talk about them today. They have a very interesting team coming into this year. They have a team that is healthier this year. They have a team that features a lot of good young players and also some veteran talent of guys that have been there and done that. So the Houston Astros are going to be a very interesting team throughout the course of this 2017 season. Joining us tonight to talk about the Houston Astros, a great guest, and that is Eric Huysman of Fansided.com, and also he has his own show on 790 AM down there in the Houston, Texas area, called about the Astros, called Talking Stros. We are very happy to welcome Eric into the program. Eric, how you doing?
I write for Fansided, which is it's actually part of the Sports Illustrated network now, and I've been doing it for like 2.5 years or so. And the talk show just kind of somebody who had an internet radio station just said, "Hey, would you like to join my station and start talking about Astros baseball?" So I've been doing it for, with my co-host Brandon, we've been doing it for about a year and maybe 2 months now. And we've had like a lot of the top Astros players on our show. But yeah, we'll be joining 790 on April 9th, I believe. And but I'm just excited about opening day. Like you said, it's about 10 or 11 days away. And the Astros today just announced that Dallas Keuchel will be the opening day starter.
You said that you've been on the air for about a year and a couple of months, and I just want to ask you, what's that experience been like for you?
It's been pretty awesome. It took some time. I mean, you don't build yourself overnight, but we just started off as maybe with like a few listeners, people that read my writing, and now we're over at 1,600 people, and we're going to be basically coming on behind the Astros postgame show.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So we go into this season here with the Houston Astros, and as you just mentioned before, Dallas Keuchel is going to be named the opening day starter for this team. You know, this is going to be an interesting year for the Astros as far as rotation is concerned, because last year had a bit of a dip. Obviously, Keuchel with the rotator cuff injury had a down year. Colin McHugh had a down year last year. 2 years ago, those two guys combined for 39 wins. So what's it going to take this year to get those two guys to turn things around? How do they turn around this year?
Well, health is the biggest issue because I'm not sure if you heard, but Dallas Keuchel actually was hurt in spring training last year. And but he said he felt the pressure of we want to go back to the playoffs, and so he didn't really say anything. And so it showed in his lack of velocity, the lack of movement on his pitches. He wasn't getting the same called strike threes like he was in 2015. And there was a big noticeable drop-off. And then when he finally told people, hey, my shoulder, it's not right, the rotator cuff's not right, it all started making sense. But with Colin McHugh, he's actually the one that's injured. I mean, he's not injured right now, but he's rehabbing from an injury he had. It's not really injury, but more of a dead arm. And it's probably going to keep him from starting the season with the Astros. He pitched the other day. Last year, he typically pitched around 90 miles per hour. The other day, he topped off at like 88. So he's not up to full speed yet. He only threw 41 pitches. That's about 3 innings. He's not major league game ready, but he may have had a bad year last year, McHugh. But towards the end of the season, he was one of the Astros' best pitchers because we lost Doug Fister was not really himself, and then we had Dallas Keuchel and Lance McCullers go down. But McHugh kind of stepped up, and with some young guys like Joe Musgrove and Brad Peacock and some other people, they almost got the Astros into the playoffs. I think we finished two or three games out of the wild card or something. So, but yeah, McHugh, I'm not worried long term, but he's definitely not ready for opening day. But so he might the season on the DL, and the Astros might stall a little bit with somebody named Brad Peacock. And Brad Peacock's out of options, but I think the Astros are afraid if somebody claims him, I mean, if they put him on waivers, somebody's going to claim him. So they want to see what Peacock can offer before they do that. But so this McHugh injury might help that situation, but we need McHugh because if we don't have him, then it's just the top two and then a couple other good guys. But Charlie Morton, he's impressing. I don't know the validity of the gun on the Mets broadcast today, but they said he was hitting like 98 miles per hour, and that's not Charlie Morton. He relies on his sinker, he relies on his I think his slider, and he uses the fastball just to kind of change pace. But he's looked really good this spring, and nobody in Astros camp really expected this.
Yeah, I mean, he was a very interesting signing for them in the off season, and so far in spring training, I know it's spring training and you can only take it with a grain of salt, but 2-0, an ERA of 1.04 in spring training, not bad at all. And to have that veteran guy who has been around the league for a long time now, mostly with Pittsburgh, obviously, but here's a guy he's not going to hurt you. I mean, he's going to be a guy who's going to go out there who's going to win 10, 11 games. He'll keep a team that has the potency that the Astros do offensively in ball games, and that's really all you want. In the day and age of extended bullpens, where you're basically dipping into your bullpen sometimes into the sixth inning, seventh inning for sure, Charlie Morton is a very, very solid addition for this ball club.
Yeah, at the time we were chasing Chris Sale, we were chasing Jose Quintana, we were chasing Chris Archer, and then we get the news, hey, we're getting Charlie Morton. But he's impressed. And he's even admitted it. It was after his first start, I think. But he said that he normally comes into spring training and, like beginning season, he might throw a little harder. Then he might kind of wear down towards the end of the season. But he hasn't showed any let-up so far, and he's looked really good. And I think with McHugh possibly not making the team, he might be the number 3 pitcher right now. And all spring we've been talking about a Musgrove and Fiers battle for the 5th spot, and now Fiers is probably going to be the 4th starter, and Musgrove will be the 5th starter.
So I believe you just mentioned it, but what about Lance McCullers? How does he fit into this rotation here for this team this year? Here was a guy who last year got some taste of it in the middle of the summer, June and July. Has had taste with the Astros each of the last couple of years. Has put up decent numbers. I would imagine at 23 years old, he's going to be looked upon a little bit more, especially the longer McHugh is out of this rotation.
Yes, the Astros have been very, very cautious with McCullers. As part of the Ken Giles trade, the Astros either had to give up Velasquez or McCullers, and they chose McCullers. And not to say that's a bad choice, but last year he fought injuries all season, but he still averages more than the strikeout per inning. Last year he was all the way up to 11.8 per 9 innings, and he's a strikeout guy. He throws heat, and he has a great breaking ball, and he reminds me of not exactly, but kind of the bulldog mentality that Roy Oswalt had. It's just somebody who just goes out there and just and gets people out. So he's going to be the number 2 guy this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if next year he's the ace of this rotation.
Really?
The Astros could go out and get somebody, but they have him, and Lance McCullers, and he's it. I mean, he's had a 3.22 ERA both years, but I expect that to go down once we get over this Rangers fear. I think the Astros ERA in general is going to go down, but no, McCullers is going to be. He's healthy. He's altered his pitching mechanics in order to stay healthy, and we'll see if everything works out for him. But he's our number 2 right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a chance to be a pretty solid rotation. And of course, as we just talked about before, the Astros need to have McHugh back in this rotation. And I know he's still a ways away, as he's basically going to get extended spring training here to get his arm up to speed. But when they get these 3 guys all in this rotation with Keuchel, with McHugh, with McCullers, that's a pretty solid 1, 2, 3. And especially in a AL West where there is a lot of offense. And the one thing that really pushed the Astros ahead in that division a couple of years ago was the fact their pitching was so good, and it could be very good. It could be that way again out of the rotation.
And it's the AL West is not. I mean, I saw something that Brian McTaggart tweeted out from I think it was SportsCenter or something, and they had like the AL West. They had the Rangers still winning. And then they had the Mariners, like in a wild card, and Astros getting a wild card in some of them. So it's very much up for grabs. But if, like you said earlier, with the Astros rotation as it is, they have it. And if their offense does like they should, the Astros should be able to tame some of these bats in the AL West, or at least outslug them. But we don't want to get in that battle where we're playing Rocky-style baseball, we're trying to just limit them. But with the pitching we've seen this spring training, it's looking very promising. So I guess the one who struggled a little bit this spring is maybe Chris Davinsky, who's kind of our secret weapon. But I think this rotation will be able to tame. I think we're going to be better against the Rangers, but it's the Mariners who scare me. I just think the Mariners are, with their rotation and just with their lineup, and Robinson Cano always kills the Astros.
I mean, the funny thing with the Mariners is it seems like every year we're waiting for Seattle to just kind of break out, and it seems like they're always held back by one thing or the other. I understand where a lot of people are coming from on the Astros, and I know, not the Astros, the Mariners, I should say. And I know a lot of people have been high on the Mariners, but it's kind of with me, kind of wait and see with them. I kind of want to see where, do they actually cash in on the talent level they have there, with guys like Cano, obviously, and Felix Hernandez at the top of the rotation, especially with a team that has been so disappointing in Seattle the last couple of years.
Yeah, and I think the Mariners, as good as Gene Segura is, I think they're going to miss Taijuan Walker. He's looked really good this spring, and maybe he just needed to change the scenery. And but he might do really good with the Diamondbacks. But yeah, the Mariners are the team that scared me. I think I don't have it in front of me, but I think we finished with like almost a 500 record versus them last year. So
really,
it's a close matchup. But if you're asking me like what order I would put them in at this time, I would probably say the Astros, the Mariners, then the Rangers, and then the other guys.
Yep, and of course those other guys being the Angels and the A's, both of whom are kind of going through. I don't want to say full rebuilding, maybe more so with the A's than the Angels, but the Angels just kind of that they're still trying to kid themselves into thinking that with all the veteran talent they have there, that they can still push for a playoff berth, especially with Mike Trout pending free agency. But be that as it may, look at this. As I look at this bullpen, and we're here on the Open Mic program talking with Eric Huysman of Fansided.com and also of the talk show Talking Stros. This bullpen last year, they had 3 different guys that had double digits in saves. This year, looks like they're going to pin their hopes on Ken Giles being that full-time closer. We'll see how that works out. Last year, he had his ups and downs at times, even though he did record 15 saves. What do you think about this bullpen going in as far as them trying to establish the back end?
I think that this is probably one of the strengths of the team. Last year, I think they kind of messed up the Ken Giles situation. They said he's our closer, he's not a closer. We're going to wait till spring training, and I just think that there's a whole mental games going on there where they wanted to give Luke Gregerson a chance, and then I think it was a bad rocky start to Ken Giles' career with the Astros, but I think he's probably going to do better this year. He's already having a better spring. He's notoriously bad for having the highest spring ERA, but I'm not too worried about Ken Giles. But the back of the bullpen is going to be the interesting part because we're going to have a bunch of starters who are in the bullpen. Like Fires will eventually be there. You have Chris Stavinsky. Like I said, he's our Andrew Miller. He's just not quite as well known as Andrew Miller is, but he's almost as dominant from the right side. And we have Michael Feliz who can throw to heat, and if he can just get some better control. And then to start the season, we're probably going to have Brad Peacock on it as a long relief guy, but we have some young guys, including James Hoyt and Jandal Gustave, whoever makes it. They can throw some heats. And the thing about Hoyt is he could serve as that second left-hander, even though he's a right-hander, but he does really well neutralizing left-handed hitters.
I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's an interesting group, and I think the one positive that I can see here is that they do bring a lot of the same guys they had back from last year, so they have that continuity going into this season already in the bullpen. Like you just illustrated, that hopefully they stick with Giles this time as the closer in the closer role. That's so important, obviously, going into the season. You want to make sure your closer knows he's going to be that guy throughout the course of this year. It just makes that much of a difference. And really, from that standpoint, you got a pitching staff that looks pretty solid. I mean, I think it's a pitching staff that, if you stacked it up against some of the other teams in the American League, is probably, maybe not necessarily like the Cleveland Indians, but certainly right up there. I would certainly say probably near the top, certainly top 10, inside the top 10 for that matter, maybe top 7 for that matter in the American League.
Yeah, and we still have some young guns in the minor leagues, including Francis Marquez, who is probably the main reason the White Sox are still continuing to push Jose Quintana. Quintana on this team would make them an instant, probably World Series contender, just because just imagine having Keuchel, McCullers, Quintana, then McHugh, and then Morton or Musgrove or whoever that is. So that just makes it a really, really deep pitching staff, and they're built to withstand injuries. Last year they were not. They were not ready. They're counting on McHugh and Keuchel and McCullers to eat up 200 innings, and there's injuries there and inconsistency. But yeah, this rotation will probably be better than people think. And even last year, I think we were in the middle of the road in terms of ERA. At one point, we were near the top in starters ERA, but we just the starters, once Dallas Keuchel and McCullers went down, we struggled from the starting pitching standpoint.
I got to ask you this, though, because I look at I'm looking around the prospects for this team as far as on the minor leagues. The one guy that stands out, obviously, is Francis Marte, who is ranked by pretty much everybody, or most people anyway, as the number one prospect for this team. Was in Double-A last year, had a pretty good year, had an ERA of 3.30. A lot of people have been saying that this guy doesn't have that many flaws in his delivery, that he's a guy, even at 21, could be at some point very soon to the major leagues. What do you think about what his prospects are for maybe being a contributor this year, if not going into next year?
Well, at FanFest, I was on 790, and I made a bold prediction that he would be in the starting rotation in, I think I said July. It was either June or July. But no, that's how mean, he could be, if we didn't have Charlie Morton and if we didn't have Musgrove, he would be in the rotation right now. He had up and down spring. He had a couple starts where he was doing really. He just showed that he was a young guy, and young pitchers are going to have that. But he's got the Johnny Cueto like delivery. He's got the mentality. He doesn't have the dreadlocks, but he's going to be a top of the rotation pitcher. The question is, will it be with the Astros or with another team? Because you're not going to get a Chris Archer or a Jose Quintana or anything like that without Martez. But Martez could be the next top. So a lot of White Sox fans get on Astros Twitter for saying that for us saying that Quintana is not worth it. They have to understand that we think that Martez could be much better than Quintana. Probably much. He's very similar to what Lance McCullers could offer. So that's how we feel about him.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, it's always good to have those pitching prospects coming up, and you not only have him, you also have David Paulino. He got some spring training action this year. He's he's number 2 as far as pitchers are concerned down the farm. Forrest Whitley also down there as well. So there are some arms. It's a plethora of right-handed arms, for that matter, as well, that are coming up through this system for this ball club.
Yeah, actually, Paulino is going to start the season on the DL because he has a bone bruise. I think he got hit by a ground ball or something, but he's going to start the season. But, yeah, I think Jim Callis came on Talking Stros, I think at the end of last season, and said that we could be talking about Paulino next year the same way we're talking about Martez last year. So Paulino is a good arm, and so, yeah, the Astros have some good talent in the minor league.
They do. Let's take a look at this. Let's flip it over to the offense here. Some very interesting moves by the Astros in the offseason. They bring back Carlos Beltran, who is on a 1-year deal, veteran guy, good clubhouse guy, and you all know what he did for the Astros back in 2004 in the postseason when he was on fire in that entire postseason, hitting home runs all over the place. So he's now back in Houston this year. And maybe the best addition as far as veteran talent is concerned might be Brian McCann. To have that kind of guy who is a veteran catcher to catch this staff, so important. You know, maybe he has lost a few ticks on as far as offense is concerned. His batting average was down the last couple of years when he was here with the Yankees in the New York area, but he was still a very popular player here in New York. And, of course, a very popular player in Atlanta as well. He's a good addition to this team. So let's start there with Beltran and with McCann, what they can provide to this team as far as veteran leadership.
Well, you've already seen what Beltran can do. The first day when he signed, he met with Altuve and Correa, and Correa's like, "Oh, Beltran, I want to learn. I want to get better." And Beltran's looking at him like, "Are you crazy?" And then and Altuve's like, "Yeah, man, I want to bring up my batting average, and I want to do this." And so the guys are already looking up to him, and not that it's a Hispanic thing, but it helps that he's of Latin descent, because that a lot of our team, especially our star players, are of Latin descent. So he offers more than just a big bat. He offers that leader. Maybe I don't think he's going to let the Astros get beat around by the Rangers like we did last year, and I just think that his is just look how far. I mean, not necessarily him, but look how far he took Team Puerto Rico, and they put their whole country on their backs. And like Carlos Correa said, that crime stopped happening in Puerto Rico during the tournament because everybody was all about what they're doing. But that's what type of leader that Beltran is. And Astros fans have been booing him for years, but I think a lot of them stopped over the past few years, and I think you're going to hear nothing but cheers. With McCann, you're going to see the best catching duel in history. for the Astros. I wrote about it. I forgot the old guys, but it was back in 1963 or something where the Astros had maybe a catching tandem as good as what we could have this year.
Yeah,
so
Gaddis too. I forgot about him. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and Gaddis, he may not be able to play everything because you have Beltran who's going to be playing in DH a lot, but McCann, he's already showed what he could do with the team. You could tell the difference, and you could tell how he's helped Gaddis, because you said you forgot about Gaddis, but Gaddis and McCann actually were teammates way back with the Braves, and so I think McCann was Gaddis' mentor, and so I wouldn't be surprised if they were kind of with the same relationship now. But McCann, he's not going to hit 300 like he used to do in his old days, but he's had like 5 straight years with 20 home runs or something like that. But moving on from Castro is the biggest thing, and but to have a bat like McCann, it'll do wonders to this lineup. And to kind of talk to you about what the Astros are doing, last year a lot of people said the Astros are doing the same thing the Cubs are doing. This year they've stopped doing what the Cubs are doing. They've gone out and gotten a whole bunch of veterans because they said, okay, the young guys are great, but we need some leaders. We need some veteran guys. We need some guys that don't get into prolonged slumps, because last year you would see like a lot of the team just go into a slump because they're all kind of at the same level, and I don't know, it was very easy for them to just kind of get in team slumps. But you'll have the old guys around this year, and we're not even talking about Aoki and then Reddick, and there's just so much addition. And Gurriel is, we don't know what this guy can offer, and he could be batting ninth. One of the best players in Cuban history, he'll probably be batting ninth. So I commend Luno what he's done this year, because he's added this team, and this could be a World Series team.
Yeah, you bring up a great point earlier there, Eric, about having both Gaddis and McCann together. I would imagine that Gaddis is probably going to be the starting catcher on opening day. I mean, he's certainly earned that right. But this is just it's a tremendous backstop, and it's a tremendous backstop to have those two guys basically backing each other up behind the plate. It's tremendous. But again, I think the big question is going to be over the course of throughout this year is going to be playing time. I mean, how are they going to get it? Obviously, it does play a nice role in giving Gaddis some rest, or vice versa, even with McCann, rest the legs just a little bit. In the dog days of summer, you have another quality catcher there to go behind the plate for a couple of games, so it can work out that way. I think the big thing, and I think you just addressed this when you said that, these two guys go back to their days in Atlanta. There is no egos at all. It'll be very, very important to have no egos at all, especially over the course of this year. One thing the Cubs were so good at last year is they were all about team, T-E, with the capital letter T, and I think that's going to be the big selling point here for the Astros this year.
Yeah, I think Hinch has said that Gaddis will catch about 60 games this year, and Brian McCann will catch the rest of them. You'll see Gaddis a lot on the bench because you have the Beltran factor, and then Hinch also likes to put in like Springer and Altuve and Correa as DH from time to time, just to kind of rest their legs. But you're going to have what's going on is if Gaddis is on the bench and you're going 0-for-3 with 3 strikeouts, guess what? He's going to be screaming at A.J. Hinch to go ahead and put him into the ball game. So it's good to have this depth because they're not going to tolerate 170 batting averages on this team. There's too many other replacements, and even A.J. Reed, he's ready. Last year he was not ready, but he's worked on it this offseason. Colin Moran looks ready again, and we have a couple young guys who are just shining. But Playing time is going to be very tricky with this team. But as A.J. Hinch has said, he's never really had a set lineup. I think the first season, I think we joked about it during 2015 that we had like 80 or 90 different lineups because he likes to tinker things, and the Astros rely a lot on analytics. So, yes, it's going to be tricky to get all these people playing time, but the end result will be great.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it works, and we'll see how it works with this collection of both Gaddis, McCann, Beltran as well going into the DH role, and Beltran obviously can play a little bit of outfield as well, maybe a little bit of left field now at this point in his career. So they'll figure it out to get these guys playing time one way or the other, especially with the DH. Now a couple of guys going on the infield, and they have a really solid infield all the way around this Houston Astros team. But I started off with Gurriel from Cuba. They picked him up last year. The guy was wanted by just about everybody. The Yankees were in on him. The Red Sox were in on him last year, and he ends up signing with the Astros and put up some pretty good numbers. I mean, in 36 games, a very small sample size. But the expectation level, I would imagine, is ratcheted up just a little bit here this year for Gurriel in his first full season here in Houston.
Yeah, and he didn't have a spring training last year. He didn't even really get much time in the minor leagues to get ready because he was struggling, and the Astros didn't want to keep him in minor leagues all season because they were paying for a major league contract, so they wanted to get him up there. Plus, the Astros were in the playoffs, so they kind of rushed him up there, and I don't think he played baseball since that February, and then he got signed, and then so it was just a long layoff, and then he didn't have much success in the minor leagues, but you see a much more confident Gurriel this spring. He's probably one of the hottest hitters on the Astros team right now. He hit a home run the other day. He's going 3 for 3 sometimes, and it's just we don't know what we can see from him because we know what he did in Cuba, but we don't know what he will do against major league pitching full time. Last year was like Bregman. It was such a small sample size. But these guys, if Gurriel hits 15 home runs and drives in 80 runs and hits 280, he's batting 9th. That's pretty darn good. So, something I forgot to mention earlier is Beltran will play left field mostly at home, especially with the short porch out in left field. So you're going to see him play. I don't know if he'll play opening day, but out there. But I think they're going to want to get Gaddis in the lineup somehow. So I'm not sure, but I can tell you, Michael, that the lineup we see tomorrow might be the opening day roster because everybody's back from the World Baseball Classic and everybody needs to play, especially Bregman because he's sat most of the time.
That's going to be very interesting. That's going to be fascinating. Let me just pull up the schedule here. I just want to see where they're going to be tomorrow. They're playing the Nationals tomorrow. Looks like that'll be a home preseason game down in Florida. So yeah, that's going to be key. That's going to be huge. I mean, that's to see how they are able to field what could be the starting lineup for the season opener. I mean, I guess in a lot of ways it's kind of like a dress rehearsal tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's a co-home, so we share the complex with the Nationals, so it's really both our homes. But yeah, I'm curious to see because when A.J. Hinch came on Talking Stros, he said that he wanted to get like Reddick batting second. But I think with what he's seen this spring, he wants to put Bregman in the second hole, keep him batting second because that's where he gets he makes the best contact on the team besides Altuve, and you want that guy hitting second, and he's gonna drive in Springer so many times. He may not steal a lot of bases, but he could easily hit 20 home runs. But it's interesting to see what's going to happen.
Have you spoken to AJ about the help that Jeff Bagwell has provided to Gurriel so far in spring training? Because I know for a few days he was down there in the middle of the month just trying to work with him, I guess, on fielding drills.
No, but I did read what I think Brian McTaggart wrote, but I think Bagwell saw something that he was doing wrong, and he said, "You're not going to get back to the bag on a pickoff if you're trying to put your foot here. You need to put your foot here. You need to be in this position." And Jeff Bagwell was a Gold Glove first baseman, and so he knows how to play first base. So for him to, I actually wrote about that at Climbing Towns Hill, but it was a Cuban legend getting lessons from an Astros legend. So, but Gurriel said that it was a very enjoyable experience because when he was a kid, he was watching Bagwell play. And the only thing they didn't talk about is hitting because they spent the whole time working on how to play first base because Gurriel has never played first base. He's played second. He's played third base. He's played a little bit outfield, but he's been primarily third baseman in his Cuban career. So he did play first base last year. He didn't look terrible, but if he was going to be the everyday guy, he needed to get some work. And from what I understand, he's worked on it this offseason, and he got some help from Mr. Hall of Famer. So, that was an awesome experience for Gurriel.
Absolutely. And it's going to be all the help that he can get is certainly positive in his direction as he's trying to make that adjustment now as a full-time Major League player. And, I go across the diamond, I take a look. You got the young guy there, first-round pick a couple of years ago, and Alex Bregman. He's going to get his first full season as well this year. He's had a very solid spring training this year. This guy is exciting. His prospects are very exciting here, Eric. You certainly know that. Guy has some power. As he's going to get older and starts to fill out, you'd imagine that he becomes maybe more of a little more of a power hitter at some point down the road. Maybe get that average up closer to around 280, 290. This is a guy who has a lot of potential. Still very, very young at 22 years old.
Yeah, and he got off to a rough start, but it was the whole battle of emotions because, okay, you're going up. No, you're not going up yet. You're going up. You're not going up yet. So it was kind of whirlwind. He grew up watching the Astros play, or at least he went to LSU, and he that's big Astros country out there. So he knew a lot about the Astros, and so it was kind of intimidating. But once he learned, once he felt confident there, he started hitting. But he's one of those guys, and Prey is the same way. They think they can do anything. And you have to have that mentality as a baseball player. And you saw what Correa did during the World Baseball Classic. But what Bregman's going to offer us is he's going to be a big part of our big core of players. And he's going to offer probably maybe 290 batting average with 20 home runs and maybe, I don't think he'd get many RBIs, but maybe about 70 RBIs. So that may not be your typical third baseman, but he's still going to have some power. But he impressed us last year because he can make any plays. He can make plays to his left, to his right. He looked like a natural third baseman. And so did Correa playing for Puerto Rico. So Bregman, his talent is for real.
Yeah. I mean, the talent level on this infield is just tremendous. I mean, it really is. I don't need to tell you that. You know that as well. You just mentioned with Correa, who is an all-star, is going to be a superstar in this league for a long time at shortstop. Altuve already is a superstar in a lot of ways. He's been an all-star a couple of times now in a row. At 26 years old, he's still right in the prime of his career. I mean, this is a really solid infield all the way around. And Gurriel obviously can make the adjustments at first base. Becomes really an all-star infield for that matter for the Houston Astros. The one thing I would love to know, and this is just the two of us just kind of chatting here about, we mentioned Carlos Beltran before in his leadership. When he was here with the Mets here in New York, he had the chance to, I guess, tutelage in a lot of ways a very, very young David Wright and Jose Reyes on the left side of the Met infield. And it's kind of funny in so many ways. Here he is, 11, 12 years later, kind of doing the same thing here with the Houston Astros with both Bregman and Correa, both two guys that are 22 years old. I know Correa's been up in the major leagues for a couple of years now, but still two very young guys that he gets to kind of teach some things about baseball and life too.
Yeah, and Hinch told us at a town hall meeting that when Beltran went into the locker room with him, he says, "Oh yeah, this is Altuve's locker, this is Correa's locker, this is Gurriel's locker, this is Marwin's locker," and then Beltran says, "Okay, whose lockers are those over there?" "Oh, that's Springer, that's Bregman, and Marisnick," and he said, "Okay, I want my locker over there." And so he knew that. I think he knew that Correa and Altuve probably already had a good relationship, so he's trying to work with some of the other younger guys and maybe make George Springer a better player, better than he already is, and then and try and improve Bregman. But yeah, he's just a team leader, and and I forgot to mention this earlier, but we have had a revolving door at first base since the Bagwell and Berkman days. And so I'm not saying that he's the long-term answer, because we only have him for 4 more years, but he could be the most stable first baseman we've had, and we've gone through a few.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point. I mean, you're right. It has been kind of a revolving door there at first base for this Houston team. I mean, it is a great opportunity that Gurriel has really in front of him. And I do remember I believe it was his brother, because I have seen his brother play in the minor leagues, in independent league baseball in Quebec, because I've been the broadcaster for the New Jersey Jackals. So I've seen his brother, and his brother, when he came up to Quebec, just drew a lot of praise. So, this is a great opportunity for him to get this chance and to be a part of this and have this chance at first base for the Houston Astros for really a long time. I mean, he's only 32 years old. He's got a great future ahead of him, and he's got a great chance to be a big power hitter in the middle of this lineup too, if that can develop. Yeah,
the veteran, I think that's what's going to be the difference this year, is that the Astros just have this veteran talent, and the Rangers have it. They have it in Adrian Beltre, and he's the ultimate team leader, and he does the stupidest things on the field, but people still love him because that's just Adrian. But I think that's going to be the biggest difference from the Astros. They got off to such a poor start last year in April. The world was falling apart in Houston, but then we went on that little run, but then we kind of fell short. But I think adding this veteran talent will keep this team more consistent, and I think consistency is going to be the biggest thing, especially when it comes playing the Rangers, because the Rangers, it's no secret they kind of beat us up last year.
Yeah. Before we take a look at the division, I just got one quick question on the lineup. So let's just say, if tomorrow is indeed the preview of what the opening day lineup is going to be, who's going to be the leadoff guy for this team? Is it going to be Springer? I know he's a guy who has some more power than speed. Would it be Altuve? How do you think they're going to shape it up? Because it sounds like it's starting to look a little bit like, I guess even the Cubs for that matter. Cubs don't really have a pure leadoff hitter from the stolen base standpoint. How do you see it shaping up for this Houston lineup?
Well, with Springer, he does have speed. It doesn't translate in stolen bases, and it's more of like he's the quickest person on the team to go first and third, but it's just for some reason getting off to the jump, he just hasn't mastered yet. But I know he's been working on it this off season, and he expects to steal a little bit more bases, but the reason why he's batting leadoff is because his on-base percentage is so much better there. He has a role. His role is to get on base and score. And so he's going to be batting leadoff. I suspect Bregman will be batting second. Altuve, it's set in stone. He's going to be the third guy in the lineup. Correa will be batting cleanup. Then you bring in the veteran Beltran. Gaddis, probably to put another right-hander in between Beltran and Reddick, will be batting next, and then Reddick will be batting seventh. Brian McCann, A.J. Hinch has already basically said that he's going to be the eighth hitter, and Gurriel is probably going to be the ninth hitter, depending on matchups. And so I'm expecting that's what we'll see tomorrow, but you have depending versus left-handers. Reddick struggled last year, but the Astros seem to think that they're going to go ahead and try to let him go and try to hit his way versus left-handers this year.
Yeah. Right here on the Open Mic program, folks, as we were talking Houston Astros with Eric Huysman, as we are in our discussion here, Eric covers the Astros on fansided.com and also on his own radio show, Talking Stros. So let's take a look at this 2017 American League West. And really, I think we're both in agreement here that this division is really a battle of Texas in a lot of ways. You've got the Rangers and the Astros. I look at this Ranger team, and the first thing that pops out to me as far as the concern for the Rangers is concerned probably would be their starting rotation. I know they have Cole Hamels there. Granted, Cole is at the later part of his career now at 33 years old. Still had a good year last year. I just don't know how many more 200-plus inning seasons he has left. And Yu Darvish, now 2 years separated from Tommy John surgery, you would expect for him to get back to where he once was. He showed signs of it last year. But the rest of the rotation is really a question mark for Texas, in my mind. Still, it's a team that can hit for a lot of power, put up some runs, obviously with Adrian Beltre leading the team. But if you had to ask me, Eric, if you had to compare Houston and Texas, Houston has the slight edge because of their starting pitching.
Yeah, and Darvish has looked really good this spring. I think he's got a crazy 14 strikeouts for 9 innings or something. But Cole Hamels kind of showed that he's not Mr. Everything last year. You're gonna have they added a couple guys in Tyson Ross and Andrew Kashner and some other guys, but I think they're gonna start the season on DL. They do have some young guys and Perez and there's some other younger pitchers, but I just don't know if they have the depth, and that's why it scares me, because they could go out and get a Quintana, but I just don't think they have the talent after. You have to imagine they've made all these trades the past 2 or 3 years, and they've gotten nothing, and so but now they don't have that much to trade. But I think the Rangers are probably a step below the Astros right now, but it really depends on how the two play each other, because the Astros, the only reason why the Rangers were in the position they were last year is because they went 15 and 15 and 5 and 14 or something versus the Astros. No, 4 and something. I forgot. But they dominated us, and if we're going to win the AL West, we're going to have to beat the Rangers. But Hinch said that he's not going to make it a big deal unless it's a big deal, because Aoki didn't play last year. Some other people didn't play last year, so with the Astros. So it's just it's not going to be. They're not going to make it an issue unless it becomes an issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just taking a look at a head-to-head here. You're right. The Texas really did dominate for the most part last year against Houston throughout the course of that year. But looking at the rest of this division, and we already talked about how Oakland's kind of still in that kind of rebuilding mode. Anaheim's kind of this team that thinks they can contend. They have the pieces to contend, but I just don't know if they have enough. And you're kind of wasting away Mike Trout in a lot of ways, who's entering the prime of his career. That's going to be an interesting piece to see if he gets traded at some point, I guess maybe later on this year, if not. And in Seattle, it's just kind of a wait and see in my mind. So for me, if I had to say how I would see this division finish, I would certainly say Houston probably could win that division. I think Texas is a very close second. Probably the loser of that division is going to be right in the thick of the wild card. Maybe they end up getting one of the 2 wild card slots. And then Seattle, Anaheim, and then Oakland after that. How do you see it shaking out?
I can't disagree with that. I would flip-flop maybe the Mariners and the Rangers, but I just think the Rangers are due for a step down, just because they were so lucky last year. If you look at their runs allowed versus runs scored, it was a very small difference, and those teams don't really win that often. And they were just very, very lucky last year.
Very true. So before we go, Eric, just tell our listeners here how they can get in touch as far as listening to your show and reading your work.
Well, you can find my work at climbingtaleshill.com, or you can find me on Twitter at AstrosCTH. You can also find myself at Eric_CTH, and you can find my talk show with my co-host Brandon called Talking Stros. You can find us at Talking Stros, and we're just really excited about this new season, and just give us a listen. And we're going to be kind of summarizing the week and talking about what's going on the next week, and just we're going to not to be like the people who get paid by the Astros to say like nice things about them, but we're going to just not necessarily tell it like it is, but just tell it we're just going to be honest about what's going on. And if there needs to be change, there needs to be change. But this team looks exciting, and give us a follow on Twitter.
Absolutely, man. And I believe you said you're going to 790 very, very soon here. So when does that really kick off, if it hasn't kicked off already?
That's going to be April 9th, and it's going to be every Sunday after the post-game show for the season, and then we'll see what happens from there. But I'm really excited for this opportunity to be on AM radio after being on internet radio for a year and 2 months or so. But it's a great start and baby steps.
To get the post game, man, that is a sweet spot on a Sunday. That's great. Good for you, Eric. Congratulations on that. And I really want to thank you so much for coming aboard and joining us in the program. We'd love to have you come back on at some point down the road.
Yeah, that's fine. I have fun. This is good, kind of hearing the outside perspective of what we see, so we're not always sugarcoating it.
Absolutely. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. Talk to you next time.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Remember, folks, you can also watch these shows on YouTube, really listen to the shows on YouTube as well. Just search Sports Talk Nation on YouTube, and you will be able to listen to the shows on there as well. We got about 5 of the shows up there now. Trying to finish that all off. We'll put this one up there as well, and you can listen to the show, watch it on there as well. And it's really done well so far in the week that we've been kind of blitzkrieging all the videos so far onto YouTube. So check it out again, Sports Talk Nation on YouTube. Check it out. Also, remember to follow us on Twitter, at OpenMicNJ on Twitter, and on Facebook, facebook.com/OpenMicProgram. Again, a big shout out to Eric Huysman for joining us today, talking about the Houston Astros. We thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll talk to you next time, right here on the one and only Open Mic Program.